welcome back to another edition of the Daily Memphians Memphis Grizzlies podcast. This is the days before the draft edition, 2026. It's a special podcast. It's a fun podcast. We're going to do a mock draft today. We have a special guest, Parker Fleming, back on the podcast. We always enjoy having him on. He is our local draft expert here on this pod, and just released his full draft profile, his package, yesterday. So I looked through some of it. It's great work. So we're excited to have him on. Welcome on, Parker. And I think I'm going to pass this to Chris. Chris, we don't have a ton of – this could last forever doing a mock draft, so we have to keep some things brief. So I'm just going to pass this to you now. And you can go ahead and explain how this is going to work, and then we'll loop Parker in and get going.
Yeah, real quick, Parker, before we get into this, and we'll circle back at the end. Tell people where to find your draft guide.
Yeah, I posted on X at Paca_Flocka, and it's on my Substack Elitas.
All right. I have been perusing it, helpfully color-coded. Very, very, very good stuff. So we're going to do a mock draft. We're not doing the whole draft, but we are going through pick 32 so that we can rope in all three of the Grizzlies picks. And the picks are helpfully set up so that if we go in order and just go in a round robin style, each of us will get to make one selection for the Memphis Grizzlies. We're going to go through the picks fairly quickly, as quickly as we can get them off with probably minimal commentary, but maybe a little bit. And then when we do each Grizzly selection at 3, 16, and 32, we'll stop and get into the weeds a little bit and talk about what each of us would do and what we think might happen with those picks. I have the first pick. We did a random drawing. I am picking first. Drew is picking second. Parker is picking third, which means I am on the clock with the Washington Wizards. And for those watching on the video feed, I do have props to get myself in the mood of the various cities. And so, just dropped it. I pick it up. For our nation's capital, I have with me emblems of bipartisan emblems of scandal-ridden presidencies. I have a Clinton Gore button, which I think is from 92. It might be 96. I don't remember. And I think this belonged to my father-in-law. This is a Nixon Now matchbook. This is from the 72 race against McGovern. If you read the fine print, this is a product of the Committee to Re-elect the President, a.k.a. CREEP. So in honor of the nation's capital, I'm picking first for the Washington Wizards. There's a lot of intel out there that they are seriously considering both Darren Peterson and A.J. Debinsa, and only those two players. There is some reporting out of Washington that it's down to those two. There's a lot of mixed messages out there. I don't put a lot of stock into Peterson not working out for other teams, but I do put stock into him having multiple workouts for the Washington decision makers. And the call seems close enough in terms of guessing what they will do that I'm going to go with my own board, and I'm going to take Darren Peterson number one for the Wizards.
Wow. Okay. There you go. I wore my red, white, and blue. I guess that counts as a Washington, the nation's capital.
You're not picking for Washington.
I know, but I do have the colors on. Actually, the real reason is because the Daily Memphian's sending me to the USA watch party here in Memphis for the World Cup after this. So maybe, you've got me beat on the Washington items. I did not bring props, so congrats to Chris. Good job. Well, I am the Utah Jazz, and I am picking second. And for me, this is now a very easy selection because this makes all the sense in the world. And since I am the GM of the Jazz, I'm going to earn some brownie points. I'm going to stay in the good graces of our owner, Ryan Smith, here. And I am going to take A.J. Debinsa at number 2. I think Debinsa has the potential to be one of the best players in the NBA. He's also at a premium position here, a big wing that can score and create for others and is not going to be a liability on defense. To have that, add that into the mix of what I have. Maybe Peterson would have been a little bit cleaner of a fit here, but I feel like if Debinsa is on the board at number 2 for Utah, there will be no debate. You're going to take the kid that played high school basketball in Utah, that played college basketball at BYU, that has a relationship with the owner and has tremendous potential and is in this clearly in this top tier of prospects in the draft. I'll pass to you, Parker.
All right. Well, yeah, I gotta say, props to you on that one. That is also like one thing that's very underrated. Is just the fact it's like, hey, owners also have a say in this too. And the Bonsta, I'm excited. I'd be excited for like the positional size that Utah would now form with DeBonsta, Laurie Markin, and Jaren Jackson Jr., maybe Walker Kessler. But we're here focused with the Grizzlies. Unintentionally, I guess my props are what's behind me with these frame jerseys, but this pick's just as easy for me, and I'm gonna go Cameron Boozer with the Grizzlies' third pick. He's been number one on my board pretty much the majority of the college season, and I think he just gives Memphis a real like player to build the system around because essentially a chameleon when it comes to his offensive versatility. You could run him, you could run him off screens. He could be the screener, run pick and rolls with either him as the ball handler or as a screener. The ball handling potential is exciting because you could run some 4-5 pick and rolls with him and Edie. And then also too, like you could run some inverted stuff to free up shooters. Do that with Cedric Howard, do that with Cam Spencer, do that with Jalen Wells, Ty Jerome. Um, I just think he's a very cerebral player, arguably pound for pound, one of the best playmakers in this class. He's been a 40% three-point shooter dating back to his final EYBL season in 2024. I just think, if the board goes this way, I'm sure that the Grizzlies front office would be very happy if Cameron Boozer is on the board at 3. I know there's the weaknesses centered around his athleticism, especially with his defense and his finishing. His numbers did look a lot better when he played at the 4 next to a true 5. I want to say like when he was on the floor with Ngongva and Malik Brown, he shot 60% at the rim. And when he didn't share the floor with them, it was around like 55%. But also too, like I feel like coming into okay, Boozer needs to be next to a big man that's an elite shot blocker. And who else better to pair him with than Zach Edey? So yeah, very easy pick from here.
So I think we all probably would take Boozer here at 3 if the draft shakes out this way. The big story of the draft, as we record here midday Friday, is there is uncertainty about number 1. No one has been told they're going to be the number 1 pick. There's sort of mixed reporting out there. I probably set our draft on an easy course by taking Peterson at 1. He is not the favorite. The favorite is DeBanza, although it seems like that's starting to shift. There's a lot of reporting here Friday morning, a lot of people starting to move into the Peterson direction. Assuming that we would all take Boozer in this situation, if it had gone the other way and DeBanza had gone 1 on this mock, what are the odds we think that Utah might take Boozer? And if they did take Boozer, is it an easy pick for everyone to take Peterson at 3? Or is that a question?
For me, I think the talent level of Peterson is something that you just have to be okay with. I know that there are other questions, and there's a reason why I would select Boozer ahead of Peterson, and we don't think both will be available. But
right.
And that's because Boozer feels more safe, and there is more questions around, I guess, the personality fit on the team. But
sorry, the Grizzlies aren't picking second; they're picking third. They're not choosing between Boozer and Peterson. So the question is, do you take Peterson at 3 if Boozer goes 2, or do you not do that?
I understand, but I guess my point is for the same reasons that I feel on the Grizzlies, I would be thinking about if I were the Jazz, right? And that is the type of player you're going to get. That Boozer feels a little bit more sure, and that Peterson has a little bit of a different personality mix. I don't foresee him being some sort of like instant leader given how introverted he seems to be, and even just interviewing him at the Combine, what that was like. And so I think maybe there is a little bit of a question, but Peterson is a cleaner fit for the Jazz roster. The Jazz would have to maneuver their roster if, it is DeBanza that goes number 1. And they wanted to take Peterson, they wanted to take Boozer, excuse me. They would have to maneuver the roster a little bit. It's not, if you think about that front court, and then with Markkanen, Jackson, and Kessler, and then you also mix in Ace Bailey, who played well towards the end of the season. and then you add Boozer, someone's got to come off the bench. It's not a problem to have a loaded up front court like that. They could theoretically do it. It's just not as clean of a fit as Peterson. Your thoughts, Parker?
No, but the Grizzlies. What do you do if you're the Grizzlies? Do you take Peterson at 3, or do you?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I lean the same way.
Yeah.
Like for me, I watched a little bit of Peterson before he came in, and it was very clear that the cramping thing was a real issue, caused some injuries, but also I think it caused some mental hurdles as well that he had to get past. But like if he didn't have the season that he had at Kansas, and quite frankly, if he played in a better context, I don't think anybody is singing super high praises for the supporting cast that was around him at Kansas. I do think if he would have just stayed the course as he did in high school, I think we might actually just be talking about the unanimous number one guy. It would actually be very frightening to kind of watch and monitor if Boozer was the pick at 2. If you took Wilson at 3, like that's something that you would have to live with. Like the idea is like, okay, we passed on Peterson. If Peterson does become who he was in high school and becomes this elite two-way shooting guard, that like it's on your resume now that you passed on that guy at the number 3 pick when it felt obvious even then.
Parker,
All right, I think
Parker, who's the most likely to be an elite level star out of those 3? Boozer, Peterson, and Debanza. Who's got the most potential to be like a top 5 guy in the NBA that can carry you to a championship type of guy?
Darren Peterson.
I think I feel the same way. Yeah.
I have Boozer at number 1 because I feel the most confident, and not just the level of outcomes that he has, but also the number of high level outcomes that he has. Whereas I do think if Peterson doesn't have that playmaking, I said this on Gabe Kuhn's show on Wednesday, where I think Peterson's playmaking is the difference between him reaching that like SGA, Luka, Halliburton kind of sphere, and him being in like the Booker and Mitchell kind of tier, which look great players, but also their playmaking kind of keeps their teams at like fringe contender, or the kind of contender where if everything broke right, they could be in the finals. But those other guys are the ones that are kind of in the mix every single year.
All right. I think we're all in agreement that the Grizzlies are, that we as the Grizzlies would take whichever of those 3 players is left there at 3. I think we would all take Debanza in the unlikely occurrence that it's a Peterson Boozer in the top 2. I would, look around the room and ask how comfortable we are with Peterson. If there's a certain level of discomfort, I'd be willing to take the player who might come off the board next in Caleb Wilson. But I do think there's a gap between, so I do think Peterson would be the pick in that instance. I'm back on the clock. We'll see if we can pick up the pace a little bit now that we're outside the top 3. I'm on the clock at number 4 for the Chicago Bulls. To get me in the mood, I have a mini DePaul Blue Demons basketball from DePaul University, which I won in a film trivia contest at Parents Weekend. My daughter is at DePaul, and I have the easiest pick on the board. I'm taking Caleb Wilson.
Very nice. I am next at number 5 with the Clippers. This is when the draft actually gets interesting, I think, and we'll be looking potentially at a trade here, but we're not doing trades in this scenario. I am going to consider a number of different prospects here. I think we're trying to base this podcast sort of off of what we think might happen and partially on who we like better in each position. And although I think Keaton Wagler is probably the better prospect here, I'm going to take Michael Brown Jr. because I think he is a better fit for the Clippers roster. We don't know how committed they are to Darius Garland. I was about to say Darius Acuff to Darius Garland in Los Angeles. Maybe they are. And if they are, I think Michael Brown is a better fit than a player like Wagler. So I am going to go with a player who's just hit a growth spurt, has really high potential, is one of the better shooters in the draft. I think fits next to Garland a little bit better. And that's a little bit of a shakeup, but we'll go there with Michael Brown.
All right, Parker, you're representing the Brooklyn Nets at 6.
All right, Brooklyn Nets at 6. I'm going to go with the guy that Drew already alluded to. I'm going to go with Keaton Wagler. Just Brooklyn emphasizes positional size, positional playmaking. It just feels easy for me. 5 on my board. Um, Love Wagler. He's the pick here. Makes it very easy. Now I'll pass it back to Chris.
You guys are just doing a solid to Vivek Ranadive here. I'm representing the Sacramento Kings, owner Vivek Ranadive at pick 7. Sacramento's a tough one for me, so I'm going to cheat a little bit. I have a copy of Willie and the Poor Boys by Creedence Clearwater Revival. Great band, great album. Not from Sacramento, but Northern California. Shout out to Northern California, CCR. And I'm going to take the guy that everyone says Sacramento wants, that may even trade up to get. I'll take Darius Acuff. Yep. Arkansas.
Hawks is a little bit more difficult here. We don't know what's going to happen with CJ McCollum this offseason. And they have several needs, but they have some good pieces. They have some young pieces, added Jonathan Kuminga. So there's a number of different ways that I could go here, but I think that Ade Mara is going to be pretty hard to pass up on, a player who tested extremely well or measured extremely well at the Combine. My concern with him is just how the reliability of a player like that. Is he going to play heavy minutes for you? I'm not sure, but has the potential to be an elite rim protector in the NBA and has a lot of different skills that have translated with other bigs. I think the passing is really good from him. The rim protection, he adds a lot of different elements, and I think he fits on the Hawks roster. So we'll go Ade Mara here.
Sweet.
You, Parker.
I'll go with the Mavericks here at 9. New front office with Masai Ujiri and Mike Schmitz, formerly of ESPN. I was actually just going back and forth here, but I'm going to stick with my gut, and I think Rich Paul is going to get his guy where he wants to get his guy, and I think they're going to go with Braden Burries here to complement Cooper Flag and however much longer they play and have Kyrie Irving on the roster.
A lot of talk about Burries maybe being a target for Dallas or maybe vice versa. Let me put on my Milwaukee Brewers cap.
There we go.
Shout out to Gorman Thomas and Raleigh Fingers of the 1982 Milwaukee Brewers, one of my favorite sports teams of all time. I'm representing the Bucks. There's a lot in flux for the Bucks. Are they trading Giannis? Are they not trading Giannis? There's a lot of reporting out there that maybe they like Nate Ament at 10. In this scenario with Mara going, we push one of those, top tier guards down the board. And I don't feel like my point guard of the future is necessarily there, and Ryan Rollins, who can opt out into free agency a year from now. So I'm going to take Kingston Flemings at number 10 for the Milwaukee Bucks.
Ooh, that's an interesting pick. I like that. Were you disappointed that your guy Braden Burries was not there, Chris, for Milwaukee?
Not for Milwaukee. We'll get to the Grizzly stuff here in a little bit, but I would have, with Burries at 9, I would be definitely making some calls maybe to trade up for the Grizzlies. But for Milwaukee, I think you're looking at more, you're trying to rebuild maybe, and I think Burries is more of a guy when you have your primary. He's a great secondary, so I don't know if I would have been into Burries for Milwaukee as much.
Okay, I am here with the Warriors at 11. There's a number of different ways that this could have gone leading up to this pick. This was finally kind of the area where I was starting to question who might be available and who might not. Nate Ament is available, and I do think you could make him fit on that Golden State roster. Might be a good place for him to land, to learn from some of the veterans there. Although Golden State hasn't quite moved past the Steve Kerr, Steph Curry, Draymond Green era. They're still trying to make that work. And if you're still trying to make that work with veteran players on your roster, you're still trying to win now. So I have less of a problem taking a player like Yaxel Lendeborg from Michigan, who I think will be a productive player in the NBA. Obviously, the drawback there is going to be age, and that's why some of the teams ahead of the Warriors in the draft are less likely to take a player like that. But Golden State is positioned to take a player like Yaxel Lendeborg given the state of the roster, so we'll go ahead and do that.
All right, Parker.
All right, OKC. All right. I'm I was back and forth here, but I'm just gonna go with a guy that I think will help kind of um reinforce the physicality they like to play defensively, the front court versatility, also just throwing more and more guys at Victor Wembanyama that they can, and I'm gonna go with Morez Johnson out of Michigan.
Rez Johnson out of Michigan. So I'm at number 13 with Miami. This is a tough one for me in two ways. To get in the mood, I don't have a lot of Miami stuff, so I got a copy of Pronto by Elmore Leonard, one of the great American genre fiction, crime fiction writers. Wrote a lot of books set in Miami, including this one, Pronto. I read a Elmore Leonard every time we go on a family beach trip. I'm taking this one with me this summer. I have not read it before. It's a Miami set Leonard. I'm going to read it in a few weeks. The Heat is tough. Am I picking for the Heat, or is this pick going maybe to Milwaukee in a Giannis deal? If it's going to Milwaukee in a Giannis deal, I think this is where I pick up Nate Ament. And since Miami likes to swing for talent too, I'm going to do that regardless. Number 13, I'm taking a guy I personally wouldn't take this high, but it seems like he may go in this range. I'm going to take Nate Ament for the Miami Heat, maybe the Milwaukee Bucks.
I think there's also something that I feel like it's getting louder and louder. The fact that the co-owner of the Milwaukee Bucks is massive Tennessee
Yep,
donor,
Jimmy
Jimmy
Haslam.
Haslam. And I just feel like that's destined. Like that's just destiny to happen. So if the Giannis trades goes down, they can get a win-win and they can get Nate Mann in the deal as well.
All right, Drew, you're picking for the first of two Charlotte Hornets picks.
Yes. So I am looking in the front court here if I'm Charlotte. I think that they could use some front court help. They have a young roster that overachieved last season and really took off in the second half of the season. So I'm trying to add to that core. When I'm looking at my front court options that are still available here, I'm looking at players like Alan Graves, more of a wing, Hannes Steinbach, Kareem Lopez potentially, and I think I'm somewhere between Kareem Lopez and Hannes Steinbach, but I'm going to go Kareem Lopez, who has a good wingspan here, and I think the Warrior or I got my last team and this team all mixed up. The Hornets here already have a few stretch bigs, so I'm going to go with Kareem Lopez out of Mexico.
Wow. Parker. No, we got one more pick before the Grizzlies. Parker, you're at 15 with the Chicago Bulls, who have taken already Caleb Wilson in this draft.
Yes. Let's keep emphasizing Chicago's slap philosophy. Um, and let's even do it with a little bit of a swing here. I'm gonna go Jaden Quantance out of Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
This is early in the rebuild for Chicago. They can afford a little bit of a swing. They already got the number four pick with Caleb Wilson, but there's a realistic world now that with Wilson and Quaintance that you're walking out with the two best defensive prospects in the class. So um, why not take a swing for the fences here? I wouldn't take him this high because of the medicals that are presumably out, but I just feel like when you're Chicago looking for talent, go for it.
In this scenario,
Wow.
Chris, you have
Yeah.
a bunch of your guys on the board here.
I
At 16
really
for
do,
the
man.
Grizzlies.
So 16. I'm picking 16 for the Grizzlies to get in the mood. I have Mike Conley and Marcus Gasol dog tags.
Oh, let's
because,
go.
because we respect the OGs here in Memphis, OG Ananobi or the original Grizzlies, not original Grizzlies, or the Marcus Gasol kind of in a way. Yeah, this is wild for me because it's three straight picks now of guys that I personally wouldn't want to take in Ament, Lopez, and Quaintance. I don't know about the Grizzlies, which leaves me with a bunch of guys to choose from. I got Cameron Carr on the wing. I got Hannes Steinbeck up front, and I got a lot of guards. I got Abuka Corey, LeBaron Philon, and Christian Anderson. A lot of hype around him lately from these workouts. Because there's another pick at 32, and maybe I could trade up, and my backcourt is kind of crowded already. I don't think I'm gonna go guard, even though everyone has Grizzlies going guard with this pick. I'm looking at Carr. I'm looking at Steinbach. I don't actually love the Steinbach fit with Boozer, but the Grizzlies really need depth of talent in the front court and at center. And I like the talent of Steinbach, who I think is a really safe bet to be a good NBA player. And I'm going to roll the dice on talent over fit a little bit and positional need. And I'm going to take Hannes Steinbach at 16. We're going to break out now and talk about the Grizzlies pick at 16. If the draft played out this way with all those guys on the board, I mean, it's a tough pick. What do you guys do?
Parker?
If the board panned out this way, I would still take I would take Dalen Swain out of Texas. I just think, well, for one, we've you can tell through, especially this past year, targeting guys like Cedric Howard, or in the 2024 draft, Jalen Wells, G.G. Jackson, Omax Prosper. There is a clear intention to add positional size on the wings, especially after building around a small backcourt like Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, but also like having to flank them with smaller smaller players like Luke Kennard and Marcus Smart. But also too with Dalen Swain, I just look at him as the creation bet, can get to the rim at a very high rate without needing an assist to get there, or without really needing much ball screen help. Really navigates the Gortat screens really well. The shooting is a concern, but it's also progressed every year. The defensive impact fell off, but I think that was tied to offensive usage. He's still a guy that gets about a stock rate of close to 5, about 2.5 steal rate, 2.5 block rate. Um, I just think when you're talking about, and I know people think, okay, upside swings. I know he's a 3-year college player, but he's an upside swing to me. And even then, I think it's like, okay, at the very least, I know that I can get a rotation player that could play fast and defend and get to the rim at the very least. So that's who I would go with. I'm not totally over the moon with the guards here. I
Right.
know guards have been mocked here. I think the only guard here that I think I'd probably be like super pumped for would be LeBaron Philon. But again, there's the concerns, the BMI concerns. Like, he's about 175 pounds. That's not ideal, but also, I mean, Drew watched plenty of Bama like that. He's a stone cold 3 level scorer, that's really taken his offensive game to another level. But yeah, with how the board played out here, there's really no wrong answers here.
Yeah, what I like about Phylon is he's got a little bit of the Darius Acuff in him, if that makes sense. Like, the guy's just a killer. Like, he got it done game after game in those late game situations, knows how to get his own shot, knows how to get other people open. I think if he were on the Grizzlies, it'd be exciting, especially for our local Alabama fans, because he was basically the team last year with how good he was throughout the season. And I think he would probably be the guard that excites me the most in this range. But I think I would probably land at the same place as Chris with Steinbach here. I do think that there are some questions about the fit next to Boozer. But when you think about the other bigs on the roster, I think he fits well. I think if Santi is still, a player that's on the team next year, and who knows how the draft will shake out. I imagine there could be trades this offseason. And as we've talked about, I'm not sure there's anyone outside of Cedric Howard and Zach Edey that wouldn't at least be in conversations. I think Steinbach is like kind of an in-between of an Edey and an Aldama, because he can step out and play that way. But he's also sort of a bruiser on the glass, and so if you played him and Edey together, you could mash people offensively, and that'd be a really strong rebounding lineup. I like the mix that he would bring. He would bring a different type of big to the roster if you added a player like him. So I think I would probably end up in the same place as Chris there.
It's interesting that I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask if you had any further thoughts on 16.
Well, I think it's interesting that none of us took a guard. And I considered it. I may have taken a Corey. I considered him the most, actually, of those guys. The fact that they were all the guards of that tier were still there, a Corey, Phylon, Christian Anderson, Bennett Sturts. The fact that they were all still there, actually, and you would have to pick of them, actually made me less likely to take one, just because I'm like, are these guys dropping? Do we think the Grizzlies, a lot of people think the Grizzlies are going to try to move up. That is the pattern. I'm a little less sure of that this year than I was a year ago, when I had a pretty strong sense that Coward was the guy and he wouldn't be there. I just don't know now. I feel like the way this draft played out, they have a lot of good choices at 16. So maybe you take one and you can choose from like all the guys we mentioned and all these guards instead of using an asset to move up. Do we? But do we think maybe they would? When you look and you see Burry's at 9, Fleming's at 10, or do you maybe take a shot to move up for one of those guys? Are they enough better than who's there at 16 that we think the Grizzlies might try to do that?
I think the answer is maybe, but I'm less sure of that today than I was maybe 3 weeks ago. Like, I just look at how our mock draft played out right here and some of the options that are available. A lot of these guys that are still on the board are players that we know have worked out for Memphis, especially some of these guards that are available. And, if one or two of those went well and they're feeling confident about a guard, like you don't necessarily need to move in the draft from 16 and try to get up. Also, as I wrote before I went on vacation last week, the price of moving up in the draft from the 16 range up into the late lottery typically has been, the 16 pick, a future first-round pick, and then some sort of sweetener. When you go back and look at the Jonas Valanciunas trade, it was cap space that the Pelicans were able to get. That was part of the sweetener to make it happen. When you look at the Coward trade, it was 2 future second-round picks in addition to a future first and pick number 16. And so will that be the cost to move up this season? I don't know, because the lottery the lottery rule changes are going to impact this clearly. If you go read the column, it kind of explains why future first-round picks may sort of be volume assets now instead of, you want to own the pick of the worst team, whoever you think will be the worst team in a future year. That matters a lot less. And so maybe the price is different this year in trying to trade up in the draft. For all those reasons, I think it's probably more likely that they're actually going to pick at 16. So I'm more confident in that right now than some sort of trade up. How do you feel, Parker?
Yeah, I'm the same way. 'Cause, I mean, I also just like I'm surveying the landscape a little bit where it's okay, like let's just start like even starting at like 9. Uh like the Mavericks, this is the last year of the rest of the decade where they basically control their destiny with their pick. Why would they move down? And the Bucks, kind of the same thing. Why would they move down when they're probably about to start a rebuild with Giannis, without Giannis there? The only team I'm like, maybe there could be something there is like, would Golden State do 11 and Moses Moody for the 16th and the 32nd pick? And Moody's going to be out for the rest of the year. Kind of opens up a roster spot with somebody that can actually play next year. It gives him two bites at the apple of adding depth. And I think one thing I've noticed with Golden State's track record recently is they have kind of sought out quantity in depth of young guys. I think we saw that even this past year. They've had Bajemski, they had Gui Santos kind of pop out of nowhere. Um, I also just, and Moody before his injury. I just kind of look at them and say, okay, would we rather pick at 11, or could you look at maybe doing like maybe Yaxel falls? All the stuff out there is that Yaxel hasn't had that great of workouts. Like maybe you can still get Yaxel at 16, and then maybe you can go get like Caravan at 32 or something, or Richie Saunders at 32. I don't know. Um, or a faller. Maybe Josh Jefferson falls or Isaiah Evans falls. You can go get just another bite at the apple of adding depth. That's the only team where I'm like, not only is this a logical trade partner, but it's the one that would actually be worthwhile. Because why shell out assets to even move up from like 16 to 13 unless you're like absolutely
Right.
sure Charlotte's gonna like take somebody that you want at 14.
One thing I'll throw out real quick on the trade up, and then we can get back into the draft. One thing that's different about the Grizzlies this year in terms of a trade up possibilities than last year is that they have a wider range of things they can do for inducement. With the Coward thing, as Drew pointed out, it was the first round pick and it was the second round picks and it was, future picks. The Grizzlies can do that because they have all these, they have 3 picks in 2027. You can use one of those to move up. You can also sweeten with a player, Gigi Jackson, Cam Spencer, Scottie Pippen. They have those players. But the other thing they have is the ability to take back money. Parker, I think, alluded to that with the Moses Moody idea. I look at Milwaukee at 10. Not only could you take back Kyle Kuzma's contract into your trade exception, you can take back Miles Turner's contract in your trade exception, which is a 3-year deal for like $27 million a year. Guess what? The Grizzlies need someone who can like basically share the center position with Zach Edey and play heavy minutes at center. What's it worth to Milwaukee to get off that contract if they're rebuilding, right? Is it worth moving from 10 to 16? Maybe, maybe not. Is it worth moving from 10 to 16 if you're also getting, the Lakers 2027 pick? There's a lot of stuff there that the Grizzlies could try to do. Whether they will or not, I don't know. I think it's a good question. As far as some, Parker's mentioned some guys who might slip to 32. Let's find out who might slip to 32 by plowing through the rest of this draft and seeing what's left for the Grizzlies there at 32. So we'll go back to Drew with pick number 17 for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yes, I have the Thunder at 17. I'm looking at a couple different players here. Alan Graves is a player I like. I know Chris does not like quite as much. He gives me a little bit of the Cedric Coward vibes, a little different style, but was on the fence of going back to college, but was one of the big draft risers through the process. I'm not going to go there, though. I'm going to go back to the player that we just discussed, and that's LeBaron Philon. I think if you have that guy coming off the bench, you're just adding even more scoring pop and playmaking to an already loaded OKC roster, and I think you're getting him in the draft here at number 17 would be a little bit of a steal. And so I will go with LeBaron Philon to the Thunder. It'll be interesting to see what the Thunder do this offseason, though, because they're going to have to move on from someone. Is it going to be Hartenstein? Is it going to be Dort? We'll have to wait and see. Philon, a player unlike either of those two guys, but I think that the numbers check out there with Philon to the Thunder.
All right, Parker, you are at number 18 with the Charlotte Hornets, who have already taken Kareem Lopez in this mock.
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and just keep stacking wing depth, and I'm going to go Cam Carr. Plays fast, shoots a lot of threes. Defense may be a little overrated, but I mean, you got Kareem Lopez in as well, so that kind of helps fortify your wing defense. But yeah, Cam Carr feels pretty easy. Feels like a guy that would fit in Charlotte's system quite well.
All right, I'm representing the Toronto Raptors at number 19. Who is going to help me make this pick? No, not that guy. Yes, that guy. It's Rudy Gay from the Grizzlies' 20th anniversary in Memphis bobblehead collection. Rudy Gay made the famous game-winning shot against Toronto, then was traded to Toronto, where he became a notable Toronto Raptor. Rudy likes the guards. Toronto, they have a shooter in Emmanuel Quickley, more of a defender in Jamal Shad. They could upgrade the point guard position. There's actually a lot of them still on the board. I want more of a shooter, playmaker. I'm going to go Christian Anderson here to the Toronto Raptors at 19.
I like that. Okay, well, we have made it to number 20 with the San Antonio Spurs here. And Alan Graves still available on the board. I'm going to take him to San Antonio. It'll be interesting to see if there's a trade with the Spurs here.
That's a good fit. Not to just about in. Graves to Spurs is a good fit.
It is, and I think it's a potential swing as well. Positionally, it's a good fit. And I think there's potential for a trade here, but the fact that Graves stayed in the draft when he could have gone to Duke or LSU and got a giant bag suggests to me that this guy probably thinks he's going in the top 20. So I think this is a reasonable range for him. So I'll take Graves to the Spurs.
All right, Parker, yeah. you have the Detroit Pistons.
Sweet. I will say Graves I had identified as one of my favorite player or prospect team fits. Essentially probably like inverse Carter Bryant, where he can dribble, pass, shoot, but he's also not nearly as athletic as Carter Bryant. But I love that fit next to Wembanyama and Harper and Castle. So great pick there. With Detroit, I'm eyeing kind of some secondary playmaking, a guy that can play off of Cade Cunningham, but also keep the offense afloat while Cade Cunningham is getting some much needed rest. And I'm going to go with a guy that shot 49% on catch and shoot threes while being a engine for his offense. And I'm going to go Bennett Sturts here for the Detroit Pistons.
Sturts to the Pistons. Starting to be a little bit of run on the point guards. At number 22, I have the Philadelphia 76ers. Representing Philadelphia to get me in the mood, I have a copy of the best of Philadelphia International Records, classic R&B soul stuff from the 70s. Little Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, the OJs, Teddy Pendergrass, one of Memphis's sibling soul cities, Philadelphia. You know, from a talent standpoint, I would take Ibuka Okori here, but the backcourt's locked up with Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. I like the idea of putting some activity in the front court. They're kind of weak at the forward position. I want someone who doesn't need the ball and can really, you know, do stuff for me off the ball and bring energy around Joel Embiid, who I hope will play. There's a couple guys I like, but I'm going to swing on higher talent. Maybe it's a bit of a reach. I'm going to take Koa Pete at number 22 for the Sixers.
That would be a good outcome for Koa Pete, who stayed in the draft when a lot of people thought maybe he should not. If he could go 22nd in the first round, I think he'd be pretty happy with that. All right, I am back with the Atlanta Hawks for a second time. Kind of stinks that I got the Hawks twice.
Hawks took a Mara at 8 in this draft.
Yes, they did. So I already assured up my front court with Mara. So like guys like Chris Sinak, Terrace Reed, they're off the board here. I'm going to look to Duke. Isaiah Evans, he could fit on the roster, but I mean, I just mentioned earlier that we're not sure what will happen with CJ McCollum this offseason in Atlanta. They already have some wings that I think are in the pipeline here, and that they've already begun to develop. And so I'll go point guard, and I'll go Ibuka Okori, who probably a little bit of a surprise that he made it all the way down here to number 23.
All right, number 24. This is Parker, right? New York Knicks.
New York Knicks. I'm having one of my favorite players in the draft take a tumble down the board. But I still feel like there's another just obvious pick though for the New York Knicks here, and that's Terrace Reed out of UConn. I think he just checks every single check mark for the complimentary center in today's NBA. So
and Dolan has already said that they're not going to go into the second apron. And
right.
So Mitchell Robinson may be one of the casualties of who they have to move on from. So Terrace Reed is like a perfect fit for New York.
It's a great pick, and from a Grizzlies perspective, I hate it because that's who I would want at 32 for the Grizzlies. Although maybe not now since I took Steinbach in this draft. But yeah, I love Reed for the Knicks with that pick. I got the Lakers at 25. Helping me make this selection is Magic Johnson. I have a Magic Johnson basketball card here. Who does Magic like? The Lakers need some help in the front court. There are a couple of guys I like, but playing off of Luka, and because I need to add more, they might lose Luke Kennard. I need to add talent to the Snowtime Lakers, so I'm taking Henry Vasar from North Carolina, who can be a lob threat for Luka and can also stretch the floor around Luka and Austin Reeves. So I like the idea of the stretch big who can also play above the rim a little bit for the Lakers. I'm taking Henry Vasar.
Okay, I'm up next with the Denver Nuggets. This is a little bit more difficult. Added Cam Johnson, didn't work out quite as well as when they had Michael Porter Jr. Swain is there. If you wanted to try to double down on the wing and add someone behind Cam Johnson.
No, so Swain's off the board.
Oh, Swain is now off the board. Sorry.
Yep.
So I think you have to either look guard here, which is more difficult.
Wait a minute. Is Swain not off the board?
No, Swain was not off the board.
We just talked about him with the Grizzlies pick.
Yeah, we talked about him, and then Parker talked about him again. But Swain is available here. I think I'll have to go there. I mean, there's a couple players I like at this point in the draft. Like I like Joshua Jefferson, but you already have a big that you're going to be playing through. and he's more of a point forward type of guy. So I'm not going to double down behind Jokic, who's going to hog all the minutes, and I'm just going to go Swain to the Nuggets.
All right, Boston Celtics, Parker Fleming.
Boston Celtics. Trying to think. You know what? It's at this point in the draft. Boston tends not to take a whole lot of upside swings, but why not here? I'm gonna go Chris Sinak out of Houston. Uh, maybe Joe Mazzulla can finally get him to stop taking contested mid-range jumpers and shoot threes and then catch lobs instead. But yeah, I'm gonna go Chris Sinak here. It's just a sheer talent play.
Minnesota Timberwolves at 28. That's me helping me make the selection.
I know what this is before
There
you
we
even
go.
say it. It's from the playoff series.
You don't know what this is.
Oh, darn.
This is one of, I think, 2 or 3 jerseys I own.
Oh.
I got a Kevin Garnett Minnesota Timberwolves
let's
jersey, a
go.
classic KG. KG's helping me make the pick. The Wolves, they're trying to trade Julius Randle maybe. That may be how they have to make a move. Rudy Gobert's a play finisher. Naz Reid's a play finisher in a different way. Kyle Anderson's played a lot of minutes for this team over the years. That's a big who can handle and they can run offense through. I don't know whether he'll be back and he'll play much. So I'm going to replace the Kyle Anderson role in that front court with Joshua Jefferson, who can handle the ball.
Okay, Joshua Jefferson off the board to Minnesota. Back to me with the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers need front court depth. There's a couple guards I'm still interested in, but doesn't make a ton of sense to go to Cleveland with Harden and Mitchell already there. So I'm going to go out of St. John's, Rick Pitino's Johnny's, Zuby Ejiofor, who has a plus wingspan here, really good impact numbers, is probably one of the more low upside, I think, of the forwards here at this range. But most of them are already gone, so he is what is left. That's who I will take here for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
All right, finishing up the first round in the Santi Aldama Desmond Bain slot at pick 30. Parker, you got the Dallas Mavericks. They already added Braden Burries in this mock.
I'm gonna just continue to double down on secondary playmakers that can shoot. And I'm gonna go Sergio De La Rey out of Spain. Played at Valencia Basket this past year.
All right, we've entered the second round. We only have 2 picks left. I have the New York Knicks making a return appearance. Like Parker, a returnee to the pod is Karl Anthony Towns with the little Karl Anthony Towns figurine. Now an NBA champion, Karl Anthony Towns is going to help me make the pick. We've already got him a backup in Terrace Reed with their first round pick. The Knicks don't have great depth. They just won the title. I'm looking for guys who can step in and play and guys who maybe don't need the ball as much. I don't really love this guy, but I'm going to take Isaiah Evans from Duke as a guy who can play off the ball and make shots, be a movement shooter or play in transition, and hopefully step into the back end of that rotation for me. Which brings us to the final pick of this mock, pick 32 for the Memphis Grizzlies. Drew will make the pick, and then we'll all talk about what we would have done in this situation. Drew at 32.
We already have Cam Boozer on the roster. We have Steinbach on the roster. So we've added to our front court and on the wing. It opens the door for me to take a guard here. There's actually 2 guards that really interest me. One is Malik Thomas, who you just from out of Arkansas, who you just wonder if he was hidden a little bit by Acuff, who's got incredible shooting numbers, and it doesn't really always look fluid with him or smooth, but you would say the numbers don't lie in this situation if you're going to take a player like him. And the other is Richie Saunders out of BYU, who I think is an interesting prospect who could end up going in the first round. And I honestly am intrigued by both, but the age of Malik Thomas here, who's about to turn 20, versus Richie Saunders, who's older, I think I'm just going to take a chance on Malik Thomas. I know that's a little bit of a – he's one of the more controversial prospects here in the draft, but he's interesting enough to me to where if I'm spending the 32nd pick on him, I'm okay with taking that chance, and I'm going to take Malik Thomas out of Arkansas.
Parker?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote about it, published it on Friday morning. I'm not super excited about the 32nd pick, mainly because it's like there's just this roster crunch, and
Right.
can you afford to bring in three rookies? Obviously, they can make trades and stuff, but I'm like, okay, I'd rather have one of these rookies as the 32nd pick, or would I rather keep Omax Prosper or keep GG Jackson? I think I'd rather lean towards keeping those guys and opting into their team options rather than making a pick here at 32 and signing them to a main roster deal. I mean, with Malik Thomas, he was actually the guy I was the lowest on compared to consensus. But I mean, at 32, when you already have Cam Boozer and Hannes Steinbach that you're adding, you might as well just make that swing on talent. I actually do like Richie Saunders, and I actually have the idea where I feel like any team in the second round could be like, hey, recover from your torn ACL. We'll have you on a two-way contract. And as you're coming back, you'll play on the G League, and then we'll convert you next year to a whatever deal him and his agency come up with. Um, and then you all of a sudden have cheap depth for basically the rest of his age prime. I think he's a really good player. Um, but I would more so either look at either A, kind of in conjunction of what we were talking about earlier with trading up to 16. I wonder what you can do to a team like Milwaukee or a team like um, Golden State or even Dallas, where you can say, all right, let's say you're at 32 and the way the board fell, Dalen Swain, you're like, oh, Dalen Swain fell to Denver. Let's offer to take the Cam Johnson contract.
Yep.
Um, let's offer to take the Cam Johnson contract. We'll give them the 32nd pick, saves them $20 million in salary plus whatever in luxury tax payments. They get a guy they might even like at 26, but they don't have a cap hit on him next year. Um, and we can go leave this draft with, Cam Boozer. And then maybe, yeah, you can take Swain at 26, but also too, like, could you tempt a team from nine to 13 to be like, hey, you can get two bites of the apple at 16 and 26, or even move up three spots and say, hey, Cleveland, we'll take the Max Strus contract off your hands, but we want to move up three spots. Um, those are some different options I would be kind of brainstorming at 32, or just trading down into a spot where you can get a guy that you would prioritize on a two-way contract and get more second round picks.
Yeah, I had a similar note, a similar thought about the trade down possibility. The Grizzlies have a crowded roster. They actually don't have a lot of future second round picks. They've used most of them. They're sort of used up the store of that. The idea of trading down into the two-way range, not having to fill up one of those roster spots and restocking the second round picks, I think makes a lot of sense. In this scenario, the guys I was hoping would fall were Terrace Reed, Zuby Ejiofor, and then De La Reyes as maybe a stash. With all of them off the board, I don't like what's there. If I had to pick, I'd probably take Saunders, but I'd be looking to either move down or up. One note about moving up that I think is interesting, you could make the argument that for teams in the apron territory, a high second round pick is preferable to a late first round pick because you could put those players on minimum salaries and it'd take a lower cap hit. So if you're Denver at 26, if you're Minnesota at 28, if you're Cleveland at 29, you may just prefer to be 32 than those picks. If you're the Grizzlies, you can take extra money, and if there's a player you like, you don't think will be there at 32, that may be an easy trade to make. Just straight up, maybe there's some phantom future second round pick involved. But if you're Denver, you may prefer to be 32 than 26. I can see trades like that. To me, the pick at 32 should be in play to move up, down, out, anything. I would not be enthusiastic about taking a player at that slot.
One more thing about pick number 32 here that I just want to add. This is also almost the exact range where you start running out of like young college basketball players to be available. Yeah. So there's just a lot fewer upside swings. Like Malik Thomas was, because he played in OT Elite, he's 1 year older, but like that was it. Like he was the last of the young players to try to take. If I go down this draft board here of what's left and I just go by age, 24.8, 22.9, 22.2, 23.2, 22, 23.2, 23.6, 23.5. Like every player that's left available in the draft at this point is an older college basketball player. That's just because of the reality of what college basketball has become. that a lot more players go back to school. And so what's left here is going to be a lot of seniors, right? A lot of guys that are more experienced.
One potential upside swing, just because of the talent body that seems like he's rising up boards, I have not spent a lot of time with, would be Baba Miller, like a 6'11" combo forward. I don't know. Do we have any? We're we're about out of time. We don't have time for a lot of other offseason talk. Anyone have any predictions they want to make non-draft related about any other offseason? Are we getting a Ja trade before the draft? I'm not so sure.
I'm not sure on a Ja trade. I think Ja will be traded.
Right.
That's not news. I don't think we've come off of that. I don't have any other specific predictions here.
All right.
I guess my only prediction will be that the massive traded player exception, I'll say between one of the two, between the traded player exception or the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, that we will not see an Andre Iguodala repeat, and that they will bring in a veteran that will actually be able to like help this team on the court next year.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities there. We've mentioned Cam Johnson. We've mentioned Miles Turner. There's other guys, Christian Brown. You know, there's other guys we could throw out there. You want to take us out, Drew?
Yeah, before we get out of here, there's more to life than basketball. I was on vacation last week, was in Lake Tahoe, took the baby, 7 months old, did lots of walks in nature, went on a boat one day, didn't see any bears. So that was good. My wife was really concerned we were going to run into a bear on a trail somewhere. But that was fun. Had a really good time. Good to be back, getting ready to get going here on the draft. And if you're listening to this, the game has probably already happened. But hopefully I see some Grizzlies fans down there at this USA watch party later today. And I'll be writing about it for the Daily Memphian. So go check that out.
I want to send a shout out. Hopefully I'm not jinxing it. To my very good friend, Memphis' own Adam Remsen, who, as we record midday Friday, has won 5 matches in a row on Jeopardy, all in blowout fashion. Final Jeopardy hasn't even mattered. He's more than doubled up second place, 5 matches in a row. He is qualified for the Tournament of Champions. He'll be going for 6 in a row on Friday. Hopefully I didn't jinx it later today. The only bad thing about Adam's run on Jeopardy is that now all of the veterans of the old Memphis Kudzu Bar and Grill and P&H Cafe pub quiz scene, they all know that I was strictly along for the ride back in the day. Adam is on a run.
Parker, what's going on in your life, my man?
More to life than basketball. Well, I can finally like catch up on my reading now that I'm done with the draft guide. But so on Saturday, I'm heading down to Oxford. And going to my old fraternity house because they're doing the ribbon cutting on on a house expansion that my dad did the work on.
Oh, very cool.
So
very cool.
That's the big stuff going on.
That'll be a good time, and we'll be back next week. We'll know who the Grizzlies have drafted at that point, which will be great. Zach Kleiman will be expected to talk after the Grizzlies draft in the first round, so keep up with all of that at the Daily Memphian. And I'm sure we'll have plenty of stories on the prospects and the newest Grizzlies players among this pretty awesome class of 2026. We'll be back then. As always, thanks for listening. For Drew, for Chris, and for Parker, we're out here.